slowing my speed. But it was wonderful because the whole room were on their feet and cheering. I couldn't speak for the crowd cheering because I just think they were on side with me. They'd been through the roller coaster of the night with me, seen me not win anything, and then they'd seen me go up there, and I dedicated a song to my dad, and that was extremely emotional. And it was just such an emotive night. So to win that award, it was just the icing on the cake. It was a magic night. It really was.
So let's go back to the start. Where did your love of country music come from? Has it always been in your family, or was it something you discovered? Talk me through to where we are today.
Okay, it's a pretty straight route, really. My dad was a country singer. He also sang Irish and rock and roll blues, but country was always something he enjoyed singing. And he was a professional entertainer for his whole adult life. So growing up, music was always around. It was always played in the house. There was always instruments, musical equipment. I remember on a Saturday we had to be quiet because Dad was recording, or at 5 o'clock every day Dad would give us a kiss after tea and he'd leave for a show. So it was always there, and from a very, very young age it was what I wanted to do. I can never remember a time when I didn't sing. I think Dad probably recognized something in me, a bit of a kindred spirit, and he was always keen to encourage me to sing from a very young age. So sort of from 3, 4, 5 upwards, he'd kind of call me up on stage and I'd do a few songs with him. So for me, music was just never not part of my life. And Dad bought me an old cassette tape when I was little, and it was called Queen of Country, and it was all Patsy Cline songs. And I just think hearing that voice and what you can do, the stories you can tell and the way you can make people feel with just a voice, it's kind of like you learn your craft.
Yeah.
And I just, I listened to people like Roy Orbison, Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, and I learned the art of telling stories. And that's why even to this day, I'd more rather listen to, say, someone like Bob Dylan, who would write a 6-minute song, than someone like Kylie Minogue that would write a really catchy 2.5-minute radio-friendly song. Because for me, the story is going to be in the Dylan song. And sometimes my songs have been criticised for being a bit too wordy or a bit too long. But I feel like, you can't shorten the Lord of the Rings. It is what it is. So I am a writer. I quite like writing stories. I mean, I did English language at A-level as well. And I love the way words can create feelings and moods. So when it comes to writing, that was kind of a progression of my music and singing and storytelling. And I think it's always evolving. I mean, a lot of my music lately has been a little bit shorter and snappier, but that's because I'm working with the identity of being this kind of whiskey drinking woman and wanting to get people up and dancing. I think, well, sometimes you there's a time and a place for sitting down with a guitar and making people cry. But in this time of my life, when it's all about festivals and performing and people having a great time, I want to get them on their feet and I want to get them dancing and singing along. So that's kind of the way I've been writing at the moment.
So the ballads are coming later on in your career, are they?
Yes, I think so. When I've got their attention, I'll make them cry.
So you've been to some really cool places with your career. Last year you went to Australia on sort of a showcase tour event, didn't you?
It was put together by Buckle and Boots Country Music Festival, and they basically put together a showcase of this country's best talent, and I was really humbled to be included in that. We travelled over to Australia and we toured Sydney, Brisbane and the Gold Coast.
Wow.
And we did I think it was about 18 days we did. All sort of different venues, some really small venues, some huge venues, and it sort of all amounted to the Tamworth Country Music Festival, which is one of the biggest country festivals in the world. We ended up there and we played the Toyota main stage, which is this great big stage out in the park, and it happened to coincide with a 50-degree heat wave, which, as you can imagine, all being British and in January, we were not prepared. And I'm ginger as well, so it was like my worst night. I was just hopping from shade to shade most of the time. Nice. But the experience was absolutely phenomenal. I'll never forget it.
What's the Australian scene like compared to over here?
It really amazed me. Their scene is healthy. It is super vibrant. There are so many artists that you could probably compare you know, on a piece of paper, you could compare Luke Combs, Carrie Underwood. The Australians have got their version of that artist, but we'd have never have heard of them. It's like this door was blown wide open. Like, we went for dinner one evening with a few of the organisers of the show, and I was sat like 3 or 4 seats away from this guy that I didn't even know. And then it was like, do you know who that is? And it's like, that's the equivalent of Garth Brooks in Australia. Unbelievable. And do you know what? It pains me to say I can't even think of his name now. That's how bad it is. It will come to me. But, you know, they have their own scene. It's hugely successful. They have their Golden Guitar Awards, which are kind of like the Grammys for country music. And it's hugely thriving, but it doesn't seem to cross borders, which is really strange.
So let's talk about the new single, Another You, which is out on the 17th, which is next Friday. I've had it on repeat today. It's so good.
Thank you. It was a song, like I referred to earlier. I don't think it's ever a song I would have sat and written on my own. But I actually co-wrote this song with a friend of mine from Nashville. He's a producer and a songwriter. His name is Bo Fuller. And he has so much energy and so much charisma. And he was like, we're going to write a hit. We're going to write this great song. And we started writing it. And I was like, oh, this is a little bit poppy for me. It's a little bit different, but I'm going to go with it. And actually, what we managed to produce was a song with both, in my opinion, the kind of meaningful lyrics, which mean a lot to me, and the great poppy hook that means a lot to kind of more commercial country fans. So I think actually we've got a really happy medium of both.
So talk to us a bit about the song. What's the story behind it?
So Another You is basically written from a woman's point of view. She's saying that she's kissed a few frogs in a time. You know, she's been with a few different guys, and they've never quite been right, but they've all led her to meeting this one guy that is just so perfect. And she's just saying that, you know, there'll never be another you. What I've got in you is absolutely what I need, what I'm looking for, where my heart lies, and there will just never be another you. And I think for me especially, like, I like to sing songs that are true to my own situation. I'm married, have been for 5 years, and I've been with Lloyd since we were teenagers. So, you know, nearly 14 years we've been together. So for me, it's nice to sing a song about really finding the one. Because if I was singing a breakup song, I probably wouldn't be too true to myself. But it's hopefully people that are in a good place and a good relationship and that have found a good person, then they'll relate to the lyrics.
Was it a conscious decision to go with a more commercial sound, or does that just happen as part of the writing process?
When you write a song, you sort of sit with a guitar, and what you're left with is just an acoustic, either a ballad or just an acoustic song. It's very much the production that will give it that sound. And where Bo Fuller came in, he took the production and he said, look, I'm going to take this to the best recording studio in Nashville, get the best players on it, and let's see what happens. And I was quite happy for him to take that part, because he works in the industry. He knows the sound that is coming out of Nashville right now. And I think that is where the commercial button was hit, because if you listen to Nashville radio, there is very much a sound, and I think Another You fits nicely within that sound. I did the vocals over here in England, sent them over, and when they sent the production back, I was blown away. I was like, wow, like, that is not a song I thought I would ever sing on, but I love it. And yeah, it was just exciting. It was nice to do it a little bit differently, because if you take, for example, Whiskey Drinking Woman, which was my previous single, and the first to be playlisted on Radio 2, that was very much an organic process. That was me, my ideas, exactly what I wanted in my head. Hours spent in the studio with my producer. Can we get that sound on that guitar? Can we put that lick in there? Can we put that harmony on there? And then we got the fantastic Sarah Jory. But that was very much something I had a hand in. So with Another You, we wrote the song, and then I said, right, produce it. and what we got was a great song. So I'm dead happy with it.
Did you feel any sort of concern about handing over the production, or you've got a good trust with the guy that mixed it, or obviously I think quite different than how you were before?
Definitely. And I think it's like any business. You kind of have to, I think how to say this politely, you have to vet people in a way that I would know before I worked with someone if I wanted to work with them, if our ideas were likely to gel. There are certainly some people that I probably wouldn't gel as well with, but I'd heard Bo's earlier work. I'd been introduced to him via the BCMA, so I kind of knew that it was legitimate, if you like. I knew that this guy probably had my best interests at heart. There are a lot of people out there that don't, but just having someone like the British Country Music Association be able to say, this is one of our guys, he's on the board, that goes a long way. And, when he said straight away, this is the studio I'm going to take it to, these are the players, I was like, these players aren't going to play on a bad record. This studio is not going to produce a bad record. So a little bit of research went into it, but I knew as soon as he even sent the first rough cut demo, because I certainly did have a hand in some of the mixing. At one point I wanted a little bit more banjo, and I wanted the guitar riff at the end change. So I did have a hand in things like that, but ultimately Bo just did a great job because he was capable of doing a great job, and it was nice for once to be able to delegate that.
It's a genuinely really brilliant record.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So you didn't go over to Nashville this time, but have you played in the city in the past?
I have, yeah. I'm trying to think now. I think I've been 3 times in total.
Yeah.
And I just love it more and more every time I go. The last time I went over, I was fortunate enough to be called up. I did the kind of like open mic nights, so we can get up and do a few songs. But the time previous to that, I got to play at the Bluebird Cafe, which was phenomenal.
Wow.
Real amazing opportunity to play that. And also a friend of mine, very fortunate to call him a friend of mine, Phil Vassar, the
cracking name drop.
I know, the country singer songwriter, for those of you that don't know, but he I actually opened up for him when he toured over here, so we've remained in touch, we've remained friends. And he was doing a Christmas show at the Ryman Auditorium, which is the original Grand Ole Opry, as I'm sure you know. And he just sort of texted me the morning of the show and said, why don't you jump up and sing a song with me? And I was like, wow. So not only did I get to duet with Phil Vassar again, but we got to do it at the Ryman Auditorium. So that was something special. That was the Ryman and the Bluebird in 2 days. So that was...
How'd you top that?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, to be fair, my plane could crash on the way home. I'm done. I mean,
did you when people talk about playing the Bluebird for the first time, they often say they feel something quite special in the air. Did you get that? Was it unique?
It was so unique. But the funny thing is, when I first walked in, and this sounds absolutely awful, but I was quite underwhelmed because it's such a small venue, and it's probably no bigger than, I don't know what you'd kind of call a coffee shop in this country. Few little tables and chairs, and this place has got such a huge reputation. And I walked into this kind of little tiny bar with little wooden tables and chairs, and I kind of thought, really, it's like a kind of Starbucks coffee situation, like is this it? But the minute it starts to fill up and you feel the buzz of people have come to see talent, have come to see songwriters, and then the minute the night starts, you can hear a pin drop. And I was on stage with such talent. I was joined by Gary Quinn, Jen Bostic, and Trent Tomlinson, who was due to come over to play Buckle and Boots this year. And listening to their stories behind the songs and then listening to them perform, just that feeling washed over me where I was like, this is an incredible place to be. And then I found that when I was talking about my songs, people were listening to me, how I'd been listening to other people. And I thought, this is why this place is so magic. It's almost like a gathering of musical minds, and it's special. But when I first walked in, it reminded me of a Costa.
So at what point, when you were growing up, did you start writing songs and think, I could be onto something here? Was there a bit where you made a conscious realization that you could have a career in this?
But I think I'm still trying to figure out whether I can have a career in it, to be fair. I didn't write at all until I was in secondary school, and I did music. I took it as an option. So year 10. So let me think, 14, 15 years of age. And doing music at school, we had to write pieces of music and write songs. That was the first time I'd